Missourians are voting for a second time on Kansas City police funding, but why is the whole state voting on something like that? Well, here's why. A yes vote on Amendment 4 would increase KCPD funding because it's under state control. That means changing some of its funding operations amends the state constitution, which requires a vote from the whole state. But why should all of Missouri care about something that only affects Kansas City? Some say they shouldn't.
If Kansas City has a situation where its police are defunded, that has a destabilizing effect across the entire Missouri economy.
It's undemocratic to allow an entire state of people to weigh in on how citizens of one city spend their tax dollars.
Now, Missourians voted to pass this measure in 2022, but about 6 months later, Kansas City's mayor sued the state for what he said was misleading ballot language. Meanwhile, the Missouri Supreme Court ruled in his favor, leading to the question being rephrased and placed on the ballot once again.